Imagine losing every single thing you love in one day, only to be asked if you still believe in goodness. This is the incredible story of Job, a man whose life became the ultimate battlefield between faith and despair. Long ago in the land of Uz, there lived a man named Job, who was famous for his heart rather than his crown. He wasn't a king or a legendary warrior, yet everyone knew his name because he loved God with every breath. Every morning, Job thanked the Creator for his 7 sons, 3 daughters, and thousands of animals grazing in the fields. His home was a place of laughter and peace, where every servant was treated with kindness and every stranger found a meal. Job chose to do what was right, not because he wanted rewards, but because his soul belonged to the light. Far beyond the clouds, a conversation was taking place that would change Job's life forever. God pointed to Job as a shining example of faithfulness, noting that no one on earth lived with such integrity. But a proud challenger stepped forward, claiming that Job only followed God because his life was easy and rich. The challenge was set. If everything was taken away, would Job still choose to be faithful? God knew the strength of Job's spirit and allowed the test to begin, though Job's life was to be spared. Without warning, the sky turned dark and the winds of tragedy began to howl across the peaceful land. A messenger ran to Job, gasping for air as he told how enemies had stolen the oxen and donkeys. Before the first man finished speaking, a second arrived to shout that fire had fallen, consuming the sheep and shepherds. A third messenger rushed in, his voice trembling as he described how raiders had vanished with all the camels. Then came the final blow that would break any heart. A great wind had collapsed the house where his children gathered. Job had lost his wealth, his servants, and most painfully, all of his beloved sons and daughters. Anyone else might have screamed at the sky or walked away in anger, but Job did something unexpected. He tore his robe and shaved his head. But then he fell to the earth and began to worship. He spoke the famous words that he came into the world with nothing, and the Lord who gives can also take away. Even in the deepest valley of his sorrow, he refused to blame the Creator for the storm that took his joy. The challenger argued that a man will give up anything to save his own skin and his own health. So, a second test began, and Job was suddenly covered from head to toe in painful, stinging sores. He sat in the ashes, scraping his skin with a piece of broken pottery just to find a moment of relief. Even his own wife, seeing his terrible agony, suggested that he should just give up and walk away. But Job looked at her with eyes full of tears and asked if we should only accept good things and never the hard ones. When Job's 3 closest friends heard of his misery, they traveled across the desert to sit by his side. They were so shocked by his appearance that they wept aloud and sat with him in total silence. For 7 days and 7 nights, not a single word was spoken as they shared the weight of his grief. Sometimes the greatest comfort isn't found in a speech, but in the simple presence of those who stay. Job began to pour out his heart, asking the difficult questions that every person feels when life falls apart. Just when the silence felt too heavy to bear, a mighty wind began to circle the mountain where Job sat. Out of the whirlwind, a powerful voice spoke. Not to judge Job, but to remind him of the universe's scale. God asked where Job was when the foundations of the earth were laid, or when the morning stars sang together. The voice described the majesty of the wild animals and the secrets hidden in the depths of the sea. Job realized that while he couldn't see the whole picture, the one who designed the stars was still in control. True wisdom was realizing that the Creator's plan is far larger than any single human moment of pain. Job humbled himself, admitting that he didn't need all the answers as long as he had the Creator's hand. God was pleased with Job's persistence and began to turn the tide of his long, dark night. His health returned, his skin became clear, and his strength surged back like a rushing river. His friends and family returned to his side, bringing gifts and celebrating the man who never gave up. God blessed the second half of Job's life even more than the first, doubling everything he had once lost. Job's story tells us that being a good person doesn't mean you will never face a terrifying storm. It teaches us that faith isn't about having all the answers, but about trusting the one who does. When you feel like you are sitting in the ashes, remember that the whirlwind is not the end of your story. Hold on to hope even when the clouds are at their darkest, for the sunrise is always coming. Just like Job, your faith can survive the fire and come out stronger, brighter, and more beautiful than before.